the published failure rates on new products are still horrendous. I mean, the majority fail, which does give some legitimacy to the question of how come in this day and age we still get things wrong in the process of developing and delivering new products and services to the market. Sadly, I think the reality is that failure rates are going to stay high, because if you take risks, which is what radical innovation is about, then it's in the nature of things that you will fail quite often. It doesn't mean you don't try, it just means you have to have a crawl-out strategy so you don't lose your shirt. But in terms of where it most commonly goes wrong, I think there are several areas worth focusing on. At the risk of sounding simplistic, actually having a strategy. I think having a clearer view of where the opportunity is, what the parameters of the opportunity are, how many people are in your niche or your segment or your market, what is a value improvement in their terms. A lot of what passes for new product is actually just a tiny change on what's there already. And that's not really innovation. The radical innovations, which is where the real money is, they are high risk, but we've seen some spectacular success stories. I mean, most recently, take the iPad, which to many of us is a product that makes no sense whatever. It's just a cut-down laptop computer. No, that's not. It's a platform. There's a platform which is giving Apple a huge competitive advantage in dominating search, in building a position in market after market. Now that's a radical innovation which disrupts. And it is high risk, it is tough to do, but there's a very clear strategy emerging behind it, which is about new sources of value opportunities and the marketplace which is very clearly identified. I think I'm more concerned that we've underestimated digital channels. We've seen them as simply a replacement for what's there already. And we're suddenly starting to realise that strategically there's more to it. And you're starting to see sort of counterintuitive things like fashion houses who built an online community now going backwards into bricks and mortar retailing. So I think the reality is that in both consumer and business markets, the multi-channel model is the norm, not necessarily in a fixed static sense, but in a fluid sense. So I think we're starting to see what digitisation of channel and digitisation of product really means. It's unfolding. We've seen the early phases, and we've seen some great success stories. I mean, the Amazon one being the obvious one. On a smaller scale, people like ASOS coming up with a new idea and a new model and driving it through. But essentially, they're doing not a lot more than conventional retailers have always done. What we're going to see next is new business models driven by the digital channel. And that's going to be very interesting. I've had the unfortunate experience of sitting in a room full with sales managers and trying to explain to them why it was important they collaborated in CRM technology by providing inputs of information and intelligence and so on, and largely failing in that endeavour. Mainly because if we create situations where it's actually not in salespeople's best interests to work collaboratively through the technology, then they're not going to do it. We're going to go back to people with their own stashes of information about customers and competitors and all the rest of it. Notionally, the technology should be a major facilitator. But I think if you're confronting the issue that you've got sales and account management and marketing people who aren't actually in alignment on what they're doing and where they're taking business, my suspicion is it's more to do with the people and the way in which they're being incentivised and managed than it is about the technology.